بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله حمده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear respected brothers and sisters, inshallah today we will be looking at a hadith in relation to iftar. Earlier on we looked over the hadith of suhoor, the recommended time to take suhoor, and obviously the barakah, the blessings that has been promised in taking suhoor and so forth. Inshallah, let's today look at iftar and what is the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ when it comes to breaking our fast. Now there are many narrations. The narration that I've chosen today from the Sahih Imam Bukhari is a quite short one, yet important, where Sahal ibn Sa'ad radiallahu anhu, he mentions that أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يزال الناس بخير ما عجل الفطر. That the Prophet ﷺ said that the people will remain on the right path as long as they hasten in breaking the fast. So number one, there's a few lessons that we derive from the hadith. Number one, as we can see quite clearly, that the Prophet ﷺ has recommended us to hasten when it comes to breaking our fast. In other words, the time to break our fast is when the sun sets. As soon as the sun sets, it's time for Maghrib, it's time to break your fast. Now, it's not out of piety that we think, okay, let's say the sun is setting at 5:15, and we're thinking, let's wait until 5:20, 5:25, just to make it sure and this and that. No, we shouldn't be putting our opinions over the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ. Once he has already said that you should hasten in your iftar, then, and we know for sure that it's time for sunset, that sun has set, then we should hasten and we should open our fast and make iftar. That's one lesson that we learn from here, which is quite clear. The second is that how important it is to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And when it comes to the Sunnah, the ittiba' and following the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we generally think about ibadat, the various sunan in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In terms of worship, we look at the Sunnah and so forth. But when it comes to adat, yani things that we habitually do, either it be putting on clothes, eating, walking, drinking, speaking, and so forth, because these are from adat, habitual things that we do on a daily basis, we tend not to ponder over Sunnah and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ at times, which is quite unfortunate, because here we can see that the Prophet ﷺ is talking about eating, as that it's an important Sunnah, that when you eat, in terms of breaking your fast, you are quick, you hasten your fast, you break your fast immediately, and this will keep you upon the right path. So even though it's only a sunnah in relation to your eating, but even that sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, is so important that this sunnah alone will keep you on the right path. And once you start to not follow this sunnah, then you will start to deviate from the right path. So it goes to show how important it is to follow the Prophet ﷺ's sunnah, his traditions, not only in our ibadat, not only when it comes to worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also in our adat, the things that we normally do, things that we habitually do. And this is why it goes to say, we've heard many scholars say that our entire life, everything that we do from the moment we wake up till the moment we go back to bed can become worshipping. It can be part of our deen if we follow the sunnah in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, and this hadith is a prime example of that. Another lesson that we learn from this hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ always chose ease for his people, for the ummah. So even though that people might think that if I struggle a bit more, if I stay hungry a bit more, it will be more rewarding. But the Prophet ﷺ ordered against that. That no, don't increase beyond the sunset, beyond the time of iftar. When the sun has set and you have to make your iftar, you make your iftar. This is easy for the ummah, and this is where the reward is. This is where the reward lies, in following the sunnah. And again, like I said, the second lesson is that the Prophet ﷺ always chose easiness for his ummah, for his people. He didn't want to put them in hardship for them to follow deen. He always tried to make deen easy for them. Unfortunately, we have at times made deen difficult for ourselves. We choose to do things in various ways and try to fit into various customs and traditions and so forth, and then ultimately we make deen difficult for ourselves. But if you look at deen as it was presented by the Prophet ﷺ, he always chose ease, and he tried to make it as easy as possible for his ummah, for his people, and for each and every one of us. And lastly, this what I want to mention is not mentioned in this hadith, but has been mentioned in a hadith of the Sunnah of Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullahi alayh, where he says that when it came to the Jews, when it came to the Yahud and the Nasara, they used to do the opposite. They used to be delayed in their iftar, and they used to do their suhoor very early. And at times it's even mentioned in various places where they would even skip their suhoor altogether. So the Prophet ﷺ advised against that. That no, you do the opposite of them, which means that you delay your suhoor, so you eat it closer to the end time of suhoor, which we already discussed, that the Prophet ﷺ, the duration between his suhoor and his salat was quite short. So we delay our suhoor closer to the end time and just leave a slight gap in between. And when it comes to our iftar, no gap. Once the sun has set, the time of iftar enters, you make your iftar and you break your fast, and this is where your success is, in following the guidance and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to implement. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.